Hello, how are you doing? Hope you are enjoying your day wherever you are in the world. So today we are continuing with our lesson 4, property, plant and equipment under IPSAS 45. And what we're handling today is recognition, the recognition criteria. So let me go to my slides. So for you to recognize an asset, you or a property, plant and equipment, you consider two things. You consider two things. Which one of them is feature flow? It is probable that future economic benefits will flow to the entity. What do I mean? That you can use that asset to either get economic benefits or for this service potential. For example, if it is a building, then you can use it for administrative purposes. If it is a vehicle, then you can use it to carry or to transport the staff. So it is probable that you will get future economic benefits or service potential. The other one is if you can reliably measure. If you can reliably measure. The cost or value of the item can be measured reliably. If you cannot reliably measure an asset, then what value will you put in your books? What value then will you put in your books? If any of these items is missing, is really any of these two is missing, then you don't recognize those assets in your books. So the next one is there is a special case, heritage assets. Heritage assets. We know that most heritage assets, for example, monuments, or monumental museum collections, those in the National Museum, the Fort Jesus and the likes, can we reliably measure them? That is the challenge. So the rule is if you cannot reliably measure the asset, then the asset is not recognized in the statement of either financial position or any other statement since you cannot rely. So the question again is this special case of heritage asset, can we reliably measure? If you cannot reliably measure, for example, a skeleton that generates you revenue, or a pyramid that generates you revenue, or a historical item, the Gedi Ruins, or so many things which are historical to us, artifacts, so which we cannot reliably measure. And therefore, the rule is if you cannot reliably measure, then you don't put them in your books. But then there is an action you need to carry out. This action is instead you disclose those in the notes of financial statements. So there is what you recognize in your statements, and there is what you will disclose. If you cannot reliably measure, then you disclose those assets in your books. In your books. Unit of measure. When we talk about unit of measure and our recognition, yes, initially you know this asset has a value, right? So there is the concept of aggregation and disaggregation. What you can disaggregate and what you can aggregate. So breaking down a large asset into significant parts, e.g. treating differently flows of a billing. For example, one flow may be used for administration, the other flow may be used for commercial purposes. So this IPSAS guides you if you can, or if the useful life of those assets, for example, the roofing has a shorter lifespan than the main building, then you disaggregate. What can you aggregate? Is there anything you can aggregate? Yes, you can aggregate grouping individually insignificant items. For example, a care might cost something very, which we can say is not that material, or hospital beds, or some assets, for example, tools. So some of them you may find that it is a long-term asset, it is PPE, When they are insignificant on its own, a chair on its own, it is significant. So this IPSAS also guides us that when the item is insignificant, then you group them together, you aggregate them together, and they form one unit of measure. There are other items which normally accompany, and they are called auxiliary assets. So those used for safety or for environmental reasons. Items required for safety or environmental reasons, e.g. fire suppression system, pollution control equipment, or sometimes even a license might require for you to have such items. So without them, you may not get the license to operate. So those you include them as assets. You recognize them as assets. They enable the entity to operate the primary asset and gain benefits from it. Without them, the main asset cannot be used without them. So there's an area that has a lot of power cuts or power blackouts. So and there's a generator that is supporting, say, that building. So it will form part of that asset. So you recognize such asset. So today we will stop here since this is our lesson 4, and we will continue with this series of property, plant, and equipment and IPSAS 45. Thank you for watching, and let us meet again in lesson 5. Enjoy your day.